everybody. I'm Rowena Gates, and I'm at a company called Eng3, and we have the NanoV device. So it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for being in the room and showing up and attending the conference in general. I really appreciate what Al's been doing with Roxy and others helping him. So there's a lot of good things going on here. Today I'm going to talk about the NanoV device, but at the heart of what I want to talk about is basically protein function, how the proteins work. And if you think about everything you do for your health and well-being, whether it's exercise, working for your sleep, nutrition, supplements, drips, stem cells, anything, what if I told you that we could make all of that work better? That would probably make you skeptical. But I'm going to walk through a scenario of how that's possible, because when you improve protein function, you're improving the body at such a fundamental level. It knows how to repair itself, it knows how to regenerate, it knows what needs to get done. And when you support the proteins, they do all the work in the cell, and it's possible to make everything work better. So that's what I'll talk to you about today. The first is I'm going to talk about 3 W's: well-being, water, and wavelengths. And so this is what's underlying the technology called NanoV. And then at the end, I'll talk about the NanoV itself. So when we talk about well-being, we really are talking about that whole orchestration, that symphony of protein activities, which I love that Patrick used that word just a minute ago. But well-being is all of these protein activities in the body. And if we tell a story about how this all works, well-being is also kind of what's victimized. It's the subject of the story. It's what can get hurt. And oxidative stress would be the villain. It's doing the damage. And then if I were a really good storyteller, NanoV would emerge as the hero of the story. But I'm not, because NanoV is not the hero of the story. It's your protein activities and your epigenetics. So proteins are really the hero. That's really what's doing all the work in the body and what is saving us from all the damage and so on. And then epigenetics are kind of like a superhero, because that's where we can do things to help the body so that it doesn't decline and age and all of these things that we want to prevent. And so then you have to ask, what's NanoV? Well, like, what role does it play? And it really plays the role of the assistant or the guide or the wise teacher or whatever to the superhero. So NanoV assists your epigenetics, it assists your protein activities, and they are really what are doing all the work, and they're what are so special. So if we start with the first thing, which is oxidative stress, you can't avoid it. And oxidative stress damage is the rust in your system. It's what slows everything down. It makes everything work less well. And we call that aging to a large extent. And the oxygen irony is that you can't live without oxygen. And then it's also what's doing the free radical damage that causes the problems that ultimately make us age. And the proteins that I'm talking about are very handy to get damaged. So the free radicals generated, a lot of it around the mitochondria, and right handy there is a protein for the free radical to damage. And to give you an idea of why they're so abundant, the proteins there can be 5, 10 or more thousand proteins in each cell. And you have about, maybe they estimate 70 trillion cells in your body. So cells are very small. And so you can imagine how many proteins have to be in those cells and how packed they're in there. So it's a busy place inside the cell. And the proteins are vulnerable to damage. So you want a really good antioxidant defense. Your body puts up this protection layer to interrupt the free radicals so they don't do damage, but it's not perfect. So the antioxidants interrupt the damage, but they can't repair the damage after it's done. And the only way to repair it is with protein activities. They do all the repair to your DNA, every cell component, all of that work is done by proteins. And the proteins are also what are underlying your epigenetics. And I'm just listing a few things here because these are things that all of us might be thinking about or looking at as it relates to our well-being. So we're thinking of our genome and keeping it healthy, the mitochondria for sure. Mitochondrial activity is important all over the place. Stem cells might be in some people's mind, or exosomes, things like that. And all of those things and everything else on this page are, if they're not proteins, they're enabled by proteins. They're regulated by proteins. If you're doing stem cells, all of the things around stem cells, like tissue acceptance and viability, and all of those activities are related to protein functions. And so hormones are, all but the sex hormones are proteins, pretty much, and peptides are just small proteins. Your cognition, everything in there, all the neuroplasticity, all of that work there's protein regulation in there. And if you were here for Dr. Patrick Porter's talk earlier, then he's talking about stimulating the brain and opening things up and making them work. And so the work that gets done is protein activity, as is detox. So these are just some of the well-being things that we talk about. And then the final thing here is the protein folding. And this is a really fast run through because, of course, it's all very involved and all of that. But your DNA starts with the blueprint for your proteins. And we pay a lot of attention to DNA. It really only has one purpose. It's the blueprint for the proteins. That's how important this is. And what the DNA provides is a chain of amino acids. They could be a huge variation in the length of that chain, which amino acids are used. You have 20 choices, and in which order and in how many. And so all of that is coded by the DNA. And then you get a chain of amino acids. It's shown here on the left, and it's held together with polypeptide bonds. So you've now got this string, and it's called the primary shape of a protein. But this can't do anything. It has to fold before it can function. And it actually could be a liability because if it doesn't fold correctly, it could cause problems like plaques or things. So it's very important that we get all the way through the process. The next thing it does is it forms some kind of subunits, which are at the top of that is a beta-pleated sheet, and down below are alpha helixes, and those are kind of subunits of proteins. And again, you want to get over to the next stage, which is tertiary, and that's a folded protein that works. And it has to get to that point, or it's not functional and it could cause damage. And then the quaternary is when several of these pieces come together and they form an even more complex protein. In this case, this would look a lot like a hemoglobin protein with the four parts of it. And so that's the protein folding. And so what you might have got a puppet in your bag, but this is that unfolded shape. It might have a little bit of the secondary features. There's a few subunits, but this is not going to work. And the reason we use this example is the bonding that holds this puppet together also exists with proteins, where there has to be bonding, and it goes up into the 3D shape, and now it's a functional puppet or protein. And so if there's something that's not quite right, you can end up with a misfolded protein that might work a bit, but not perfectly. And one example of this would be sickle cell disease. It's genetic disease, so some of the amino acids are in the wrong order, and the bonding's incorrect. Just a little tweak in the bonding, but it causes the hemoglobin protein to bend into a sickle shape, and that's sickle cell disease. So you don't have to have a very big, problem with the 3D structure for it to cause real problems in the biology. So that's why you have a puppet. So that's kind of the well-being side of this. that I've talked about. So the next W, if you remember, is the water. Now I just showed you the puppet and it went from here to here, but I used my thumbs to push it. It used energy. It didn't do it on its own. And this isn't magic. The energy for the protein to fold has to come from somewhere. And it's been known for quite a long time that it came from the water. And over the years, they've refined that understanding of how the water contributes the energy to the proteins so that they can fold. It enables their folding, and what is needed is ordered water. And ordered water is going to form on the surfaces of any cell component, many of which are mitochondria and proteins. Mitochondria has mitochondrial proteins, so that all has folding activity has to take place for those to all work. And so what ordered water is it's a layer of water that's where the water molecules are more closely packed together, which is what's shown in this diagram. It only forms on surfaces. It will not form in a big glass of water because it just collects on the surfaces. And so this is essentially the ordered water. What it does in protein folding is it transfers energy, which is the ordered state, the packed together water molecules. They become less packed together, and that order transfers to the protein from the water. So this is actually a transfer of entropy, is the energy state going from order to chaos. And that's where the proteins are getting what they need, that energy to fold. And to give you an idea, the water, this is a process that happens naturally in the body, otherwise we wouldn't work. We need to constantly be creating this ordered water. It's also referred to as easy water, or the fourth phase of water you might have heard of. And so this has to be accumulating on the proteins for them to fold. And the way that works is, again, it's not magic. It has to come from somewhere for this ordered water to start in the first place. And where it comes from is certain wavelengths, which is the third W. And those wavelengths are naturally generated in the body by one of the reactive oxygen species. And so with the wonderful kind of amazing ability of the body, the reactive oxygen species is a free radical, but it also serves this critical role, which is to provide the order in the water for the proteins to fold. And I should say that all of this was done in science, water science, cell biology, independent of our company. So we leveraged this information in what we do. And what our technology does is it works by looking at the absorption peaks of the water. So I'll show you a graph that is, you'll see out there, you can see red light, you can see PEMF, you can see all kinds of ways of stimulating the body with certain wavelengths. Where those wavelengths live is towards the bottom of the dip in this graph. And this graph shows the absorption peaks of water. So at the bottom is the red light, the number of nanometers for red light therapy and so on, they're all at the dip in the graph because they're going through the water, they're hitting biomolecules, and they're doing stuff. What we go after is not that at all. We're at a different part of the spectrum. We're much farther up on the right side of this graph because we want the water to absorb the energy we bombard it with, because that's what changes the state of the water droplets. So we need that. And so we're looking at these absorption peaks going up on the right side, and that's what makes it very unique and very different from anything else out there. And and it also makes it very universal. So it's coming from the inside out and it's working through all the water in the body. And most of your body is water. So the NanoV, I'll quickly tell you how it works. I'm going to run this quick video, and it's going to explain it in way better detail than I can.
Energy for life. More than 99% of our body's molecules are water. The DNA and proteins which are the second most abundant compound, are embedded in this water. Hundreds of thousands of different proteins execute every process in your body. Tens of thousands are found in each cell. Folded proteins are essential for cellular activity that keeps us vital, healthy, and alive. Unfortunately, folded proteins and the DNA are constantly damaged by free radicals during oxidative stress. When unfolded, they lose their function. This reduces cellular activity. The results are loss of performance, aging, and in a worst-case scenario, chronic disease. Fortunately, repair and regeneration are possible and occur when proteins fold and refold. Always, along with free radicals, signaling molecules known as excited or activated oxygen are generated and emit a specific electromagnetic energy. This energy is absorbed and transferred by water, forming layers of ordered water on its contact surfaces. These layers are also called exclusion zone or EZ water. It is more densely packed and has a higher energy state. They provide the energy required for proteins to fold. When enough layers surround a protein, the folding happens spontaneously and the protein starts functioning. This essential biological process can now be assisted by the patented NanoV technology. In NanoV devices, the same signal is emitted into water droplets in an airstream, leading to the formation of ordered water vapor. Universities and test facilities verified the signal's quality and intensity as bioidentical, and that the vapor contains EZ water. Inhaling NanoV's ordered water vapor affects the entire body. Thanks to the unique properties of water, NanoV's specific energy is transferred from vapor droplets to cells and ultimately to proteins. Here, NanoV provides much-needed energy to the protein folding process. Not only DNA molecules repair faster, but all cellular activities improve with proper protein function. By assisting their folding, functions are not lost, but are reinstalled. Therefore, NanoV is used to address chronic disorders, to slow cellular aging, and to recover faster from mental or physical performance. Now, you can enhance vitality by boosting regeneration at the cellular level. NanoV provides more energy for life.
So that's an overview of how it works. These are the areas where it's used in both cognitive and physical performance, and to decelerate the aging process or for longevity, and to accelerate recovery from illness. And it's always helpful to know that somebody's verified a technology, and we have a lot of studies on proteins themselves to show faster repair. A number of them are listed here. All of this is placebo-controlled university research. So a number of things have been tested on proteins and on humans that were stressed to show faster immune response, faster recovery. And I know I'm not going to give you time to read them all. These are additional studies that were done on some really important indicators like VO2 max, which is your indicator of biological age, and it determines performance ability. And then a number of other areas, mitochondrial function is the respiratory exchange ratio, and then oxidative stress itself and double-strand DNA damage, the ones that are hard to fix. And so the way it works, it's very complementary. It assists at a fundamental level, and it complements anything else that's being done. And it's totally personalized because the body determines what has to get done. It's totally up to you, and it has no potential for harm. So I very much appreciate all of you being here, and we are around. Haley, my colleague's here. She's got cards that she could give you so that you could easily, find us again. And we're right out a little down the hall. Happy to have you come to a session. I look forward to seeing you there.